Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, Meathead. And as far as he's concerned, he's just a short, muscular nigga. He's not so muscular anymore. He's lost, you know.
He called me that yesterday.
Huh?
He called me bald-headed nigga.
Well, you tell him what you called me first.
He's hard R though.
Yeah, nigger. He said, "I called you a Czech fuck."
Yeah, I called you a bald nigger then.
But they still, in the Eastern European countries, there is no word Negro. There is, you know, it's nigga. That's the name.
We say negere.
Yeah,
negere.
yeah. And so, I mean, Marcus is angry. You know, and he sees things, and as you go through with the contemporaries, you see people that are dipshits that have made a lot of money. I don't think they're dipshits that make a lot of money. Because it's not easy to make a lot of money, believe me. Remember, I was most likely to fail in my high school class, me. And at my 50 and my 40-year reunion, I told, there's a 5 panel for the graduation. I'm the chairman, I do nothing. There's 4 gals. And you know, the 40 and 50, I said, you know, tell me how much money, but for the classmates that can't afford it, I'll pay for the room and bullshit like that. Now, after you know 40 years of being out of high school, if you can't afford a fucking, it's not Motel 6, but Holiday Inn kind of room. I mean, now at my 10-year reunion, a lot of guys came out of the blocks fast. So in their late 20s, they're now not homeless, but almost homeless. 3, 4, 5 wives later. Now, if you got $5 billion and you got 3 or 4 or 5 wives later, that's fine. It's not fine, but it's more understandable. But if you're homeless and you got 3 or 4 or 5, I mean, something's wrong. But everybody's got a reason. You know, several of my classmates got fucked up in Vietnam, blah, 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 but they've all got a reason. But after 60 years, you've had plenty of time to bounce back. But after 30 years, there's no bouncing back. So the last 30 years, they just felt sorry for themselves. But PAs, I don't see, now I know several of the guys have virtual PAs that they use. And the Philippines for virtual PAs is the best I've seen. I'm biased because I lived there and, you know, fuck. I'm just biased. But I'm willing to fire Filipinos, which a lot of people aren't. But Indian PAs, I've never seen it really work long term. And the Belarus and all these other fucking places, Irish, forget about it. I mean, you know, they're asleep by the time your interview conversation's over on the phone. But they have a pleasant voice. I used to have an Irish PA a long time ago.
But when it comes to these like really, really superstars, do any of them have virtual PAs?
No, none. And there's a book out a year or two ago. She was a PA to Bezos, Musk, and one of the other top guys. She wrote a book. And she was with 3 years, 5 years, and 5 years. And I didn't read the book, but when she was making the talk show, you know, circuit, and she says, in a nice professional way, they're all assholes. They've got idiosyncrasies. When Elon phones you at 2 a.m, he expects you to be coherent. Boom, boom, boom. And then he might go to sleep for 2 hours and then call you again. But he expects you to be coherent. And not everybody's coherent when they wake up in the middle of the night. But it's interesting what they expected. But they expected, see now PAs don't do your laundry. They don't wash your underwear and shit like that, okay? And so when we get, of course we'll have a replacement of the girls in a long, long time. So, but I mean, it's all encompassing. Of course, when I'm in Asia, the PAs didn't do all that. You had other, the PAs had PAs, you know. The PAs had, because, you know, the falling off in the, on the pecking order is pretty quick. And you can hire in Asia, pretty much, somebody to do anything, including wiping your ass. I mean, you can find people for that. Because when they say they'll do anything to be working, they mean it. Other people say, I interviewed a girl from Brown, 2 or 3 years ago. She looked like Jacqueline Kennedy. She talked like Jacqueline Kennedy. She walked like Jacqueline Kennedy. She wasn't going to do shit.
What was the position for?
It was an assistant PA. Because my PA, when I had offices in the United States, I want you to just, I know you don't interview people, but would you just talk to this girl for a few minutes? And and I know why she says, because I think I'm making a mistake. She has all the right answers. She does this, you know, she knows what fork to use, and she can walk with a book on her head and all that bullshit. And I say, well, you're right. I mean, you'll fire her the first day. And if she's ever in a meeting with me, I'll probably fire her. But when I told you those meetings I went to in showbiz, which is pretty liberal, I mean, girls don't get coffee. They had to go to Starbucks down the road. They don't even have coffee in the building. And that's where we're headed. Last time I was involved with a Trey kind of mentee, this maybe 6-7 years ago, we were buying a big hospital, healthcare. He's since rolled up, exited, and he's gone. He's down living on his boat off of Fiji or some fucking thing with 5 girls on it, him and 5 girls on the boat, okay? His alarm clock is somebody having his lips on his dick. That's his alarm clock, okay? And so the hospital administrator, who is there's a degree you can get in hospital administration, like an MBA, but it's not an MBA. I couldn't get a cup of coffee, and so he went with the girl to the Starbucks. This is how you do it. If you ever tell anybody in the building again, this will be the only time you'll be sitting here looking for a job. So he walked her, you know. Now it would be in CNN, you know, big CEO walking. But none of the guys have virtual. They're at hand. A lot of them make them live near them. Okay.
Wait, can you say that again?
Live near them. You know, Trump's PAs all lived in Trump Tower. And not everybody's willing to make those sacrifices. But I mean, my old-time assistants, Leanne and Alexandra, back in the 80s, their salaries were like 50 grand, but their bonuses could be 100 grand, which was huge money. Whereas Klaus used to pay his, he had 3 assistants. One inclusion, young black girl, a graduate of Columbia. One old hag who had gone to the some school in Germany, who was about 60. And one Indian, middle of the roader, so he was covering the bases. But the junior made 140 grand, and she didn't do shit. But Siemens historically overpays for everybody. Overpays for everybody. But they've always laughed at the other companies when they say there's a shortage of talent. If you're willing to pay up, there's never a shortage of talent. Never. And they discovered that a long time ago. But I mean, Anelli's not the only guy. He's one of the only guys that was willing to take time to talk. But most of the guys are at Marcus's end of the continuum, just mad, angry, and they just like when he set the world record for crowdfunding in 2 minutes and 32 seconds, he gave all the money back. Yeah, I don't care what it costs me. I mean, I'm not going to deal with these fuckers. And so Marcus says, I'm never going to go public. You know, I'm never going to stand up there and have to answer questions from a fucking idiot. But that attitude permeates. There's a lot of people that won't sell to Marcus no matter what. No matter what the fuck he offers them. So there's a line, just like I beat my kids up too much. I mean, there's a line at which, you know.
I'm sure the same was with Trump.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah. But Trump, you know, would grab people and, you know. But all this sexual harassment now is because it's after the fact. When you come back after 25, 30 years, I mean, they had ample opportunity to complain. And when there's multiple times they did it, this girl that just won a case against him, the journalist, that he allegedly raped in a dressing room at Macy's or someplace like that. She was too afraid to scream. Sally can understand that. But Sally would never be too afraid to scream. She'd grab you by the balls and bite your dick or kick you. I mean, but there's certain cultures that are just, a lot of Asian cultures aren't going to scream, not complain. They're just going to be abused, unfortunately. But you saw, that's a year old. That was a year ago last November.
With the bonuses for the PAs, what would they get the bonuses for?
Based on how well you do, how many deals you close. I used to say, not dissimilar to Simon Voss. He pays up to 25,000 euros for a lead that closes. A lead, okay? Simon Voss has gone through 5 or 6 assistants. But he's an obnoxious little ugly fucker. He takes delivery of his rolls next week that they've been building for him for the last year. And he says he's paying for with his own money. I'll be interested to look at the financials. I believe him. But it's very easy to pay for it with not your own money. I once flew one of my dogs in a corporate jet. There was a new hocus pocus veterinary out of Texas A&M, which is one of the leading veterinary schools in the world. And I wanted him to see a driller. And, the plane was, 18, 20 grand. This is, 30 years ago. And but my CFO, John Ernest, was a world-class guy. He had already docked my salary for the year-end books, so I paid for it, even though I forgot about it. But when they threw me out, 4 or 5 years later, they looked for that, but then we could produce that I really did pay for it, thanks to John Ernest. Then they said, were you personally responsible for paying it back? And then before I could say anything, John Ernest was in the audience of the court. I did it for him because I knew he would want to do it. You're in contempt. Yeah. But I would be disingenuous. And he didn't say it was easy. He just said that's, how we did it. But billionaire 5 years. Pretty impressive.
Do you know when that deal is being announced with the Vatican?
No, I don't. I thought it was announced. I thought I got an email last night, but that wasn't it. It was about something else. I'm getting honor of Medal of Honor, and I said, in the ceremonies in May, and because the last time I was supposed to get something last October, I was doing a seminar. So I gave a seminar and I didn't go, which they don't understand that. When the Holy See calls. But 40 years ago, I had a chance to be a prince of the church by the Pope. And
what does that mean? What does that mean, prince of the church?
That means you're like Paul, that kind of prince. I was too busy, and Governor Carey said, who was a main squeezer of the Pope at the time, he says, Dan, you're going to regret this. I'm in the middle of doing these deals. You're on the board. You see, we got a lot of money on the table here, and I don't want to fuck it up. And anyway, I didn't go. The deals closed. I didn't go. And of course, then Hugh Carey died. So my main conduit. So I've had to wait 35 years for a mentee to crawl his way up the holy ladder. And I'm happy for him, but 40 to 60% of everybody in the Vatican is gay. 40 to 60. I tend to believe it's 60 and not the 40. And there's an interesting podcast newsletter called The Pillar, Pilor. Pillar got two? Anyway, Pillar, The Pillar. And then there's the paid edition of The Pillar, which is only $8 a month. And it's written by non-homosexual bishops, priests, and cardinals in the Vatican. And if it was a newspaper that had wide readership, Catholicism has already dropped off. Hardly anybody in Mass anymore. But I mean, fuck, they'd be recruiting nobody.
And you're part of the Order of St. John, right?
Yeah, correct.
What exactly is that?
It's it started with the Templar, Knights of the Templar. So it's an offshoot of them. Knights of the Templar were the knights that protected pilgrims from going to Palestine during the first wars in 1200, and then they regrouped in 1300. But they also became the richest guys in Europe. It's questionable how they came on all this money, and they loaned money to the Vatican, the Knights Templar. So and then when the Vatican used to be in Paris, not where it is now. But then the Knights Templar dissolved, and then Order of St. John started up, and so we're the bastardized of the Knights Templar.
Yeah,
I've got a couple mentees that are right up near the top, and that's how I got in. I was interviewing them. So
I think Ken is in the Order of Malta.
oh, that's another thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that similar or?
Oh no. The Malta were the pirates.
Okay.
Yeah, stationed in Malta, and so the Pope, or the Holy See, as it's called, didn't feel threatened. Of course, they say that now, but they weren't as holy as they should be, because they were pirates. I mean, of course, the Knights Templar were hustlers. Whether they took your money or didn't take your money, depending on whether you did the sign of the cross. And so they were much better than the Arabs that were killing all the infidels. But all this is, not all, but almost all of it's religious based. And having been in business with the Kuwaitis, indirectly the Saudis, and having been in business with the Israeli government, they've got a phase agenda. They tell the public, nobody wants it to be a solution. Neither side. And it's been going on 2,000 to 3,000 years. I'm sure it'll be, some form of it is going to be going on 2,000 or 3,000 more years. It's like there's two gangs in Los Angeles, the Crips and the Bloods. These were the gangs that were formed circa World War II. And when black kids got out of the service, they were no better off than before they went to service. There was no, the army was segregated still. And so I think it's south of Crenshaw and north of Crenshaw, which is a tough-ass street in Los Angeles. If you're on one side, we've got third, fourth, fifth generation, Bloods and Crips. And they're never going to meet. If you marry a Crip and you're a Blood, most likely, either your kids aren't going to live past 10 years old. That's never going to be healed, and not dissimilar to the Jewish and the Middle Eastern Arabs. And it is funny because when you look at a map, and Israel's about that big, and there's nothing but
it's so
Muslims.
Small. Yeah.
And when I did a deal with the Israeli government, which is famous on YouTube, when Modai, the minister, he says, we're meeting with all these people. You're not even a Jew, Peña. He says, well, why do you think you can find oil for us? We're surrounded. Well, I said, first of all, with the greatest respect, you're surrounded by oil. But do you know the difference between chicken shit and chicken salad? You've been dealing with the chicken shit, and I am the chicken salad. And that whisper was enough to get me the contract. But then the Yemen war broke out. And so I was going to put up $60 million. The government was going to put up $60 million, but they yanked the contract because they needed the money to fight the Lebanese. But the real reason is because the strata underneath buckled. It's like you take a sheet of paper and fold it like this. And so the oil and gas that should have been underneath Israel, that's underneath every other part of, is like 80, 90, 200,000 feet down, which is impossible to drill. Whereas in Saudi Arabia, in the old days, you could kick the fucking sand and oil came up.